everyone. I'm Darian Gold, and welcome to All Things Pilates Season 6. As we dig deeper into the life of a contrologist, this season's guest list shares what the Pilates methodology can offer to anyone who desires health and wellness. On this show, we'll explore, seek, and investigate what's possible when we incorporate Contrology into our lives. Perfection in life is a double-edged sword. Perfection can lead to excellence and mastery, but it can also lead to obsession and anxiety. In the Pilates community, there is not only a hint of perfectionism, but an element of performing, as if on stage in front of an audience. Joan Blum, our guest, is a 25-year Pilates veteran and former professional dancer. I've asked Joan to share her thoughts about the need to be perfect and the need to perform, which sadly is often encouraged in different sectors of the Pilates industry. Hello, Joan. Welcome to All Things Pilates.
Hi, Darian. Such an honor to be with you today.
Joan, how many years did you devote to your dance career?
Well, I started dancing when I was 2.5 years old, just a little toddler.
Oh.
And I danced until I was in my 20s, my early 20s. So about 20 years. From 13 to 22, I was very serious in ballet. That was my favorite ballet. I just loved it.
Did you eat it, drink it, sleep it?
I ate it, drank it, slept it. I played the music. It was my world. The girls were my friends. It was my whole life. I didn't even really care about socializing or going to prom or doing anything. I was just a very serious little ballerina.
I could see that. During this time, how did your ballet teachers treat you?
They were very supportive and very encouraging, but there was a lot of pressure on me and my friends as well to be very, very skinny, almost skinny in a way that was just very difficult to maintain. And I felt so much pressure at that time to maintain that. It was.
Did they weigh you?
They didn't weigh us, but the worst thing was at the ballet bar, they would, and I'm not going to mention names, but the teacher would blurt out, "Joan, so-and-so, 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 you must lose weight before the next performance or you will not be in the next performance." So it was a form of public shaming that was just so hard as a 13-year-old going in.
Harmful.
My body was changing. It was so hard.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, it's very good and kind of you that you're not naming any names, but those who are still of that mindset should maybe rethink how they motivate and inspire their students.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Because okay, so let's say you're at the bar and you're doing your warm-ups in preparation for a rehearsal, let's say, and your dance teacher, who for the most part is supportive of you and encouraging, however, pressure on him or her to have a fantastic core of dancers. Now all of a sudden they're looking at you and saying, well, are they perfect enough? She looks like she needs to lose 5 to 7 pounds. But they aren't classy enough to take you aside. They just shout it out. So how did that make you feel?
I wanted to crawl into a hole and die. I mean, it was so awful. My face turned beet red. It was very traumatic. It was a moment in my life as a teenager that scarred me so tremendously that to this day, I'm still healing those scars. That's how intense it was. And it was a situation where the thinner I got, the more love I got. The thinner I got, I have one of these bodies where my bones look a certain way when I'm really, really skinny, like malnourished, bad skinny, where I look a certain way that at that time was very in fashion for ballet. It was very, and
that was Balanchine. Remember what Balanchine said to Gelsey Kirkland? And she wrote about it in Dancing on My Grave, where she talked about being in rehearsal and George Balanchine correcting her or something. And then at some point he said something like, "No, dear, it's not eat little, it's eat nothing."
Right. Right. It's, now, I must say, I don't want to get off the subject of the question, but not all dancers took that the same way, because I want to talk very briefly about this. I have a friend, Wendy Whalen, who is still a very dear friend of mine, had a tremendously successful career as a dancer. To this day, she's still huge in the ballet world, amazing ballerina. I love her and look up to her with all my heart and soul and have so much respect for her. And she was able to eat the right amount, nourish her body, never develop a sicko eating disorder like I did. I had some really bad eating disorders, and she stayed healthy as a ballet dancer. So I think it was just.
Did you get support at home?
Did she get support? I'm sure.
No, did you?
My mother basically did the best she could. God rest her soul. My mother, God rest her soul, but she pretty much said, I'm having a little sense of humor about it. If you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen.
Oh.
Interesting, right? Bless her heart. She was doing the best she could. But I would have loved it if she would have said, this isn't right. You and I are going to have a talk. We are going to talk to the dance teacher. But the thing is back then, the kids didn't really have much of a say. It was in the teachers were the authority. The parents were the authority. I did what I was told. I tried to be a good girl, and I didn't want to make waves.
That is a whole episode right there. Really, that leads me to my question about when and how did Pilates enter your world? Because I can imagine, I know through my own journey, the Contrology system, when you dig in, gives you a kind of power that no one on the planet can take away from you.
Yes.
When did Pilates capture you?
This is such a beautiful question. And it really leads. So all of the pain I had from ballet and all the emotional stuff I held in my body, when I stopped dancing, my torso lost its alignment. And I was in a twist that was so gnarly. People thought something was really wrong with me, like I had cerebral palsy or I had something really wrong with me, which I didn't. This is something I want to share with all my listeners is emotional pain, fear, anxiety, hurts that are never resolved. That does a number on the body more than tripping and falling and spraining your ankle or getting pushed or even a car accident. I know that I'm being extreme, but I had so much pain and so much emotion trapped in my body that I didn't know how to express, that my torso let me know, hey, Joan, you're not dealing with a lot of stuff here. So that's what brought me into the Pilates world on the equipment. I was at a gym and a woman noticed my torso and she goes, oh my God, are you okay? You look so twisted. What's going on? I said, yeah, this is just, I was accepting it. This is just the way it is for me. I'm just twisted. I don't know. I didn't understand why. So she referred me to Siri Dharma. And this is when Siri had her home in Beverly Hills years ago. It was a long time ago in the 90s. And I called Siri and she was very sweet on the phone to me. And she said, oh, I would love to take you on it as a student. But she said, I'm just so booked right now. I'm going to refer you to someone who is wonderful. I had neck injuries and my torso was off. She said, I have someone who's really wonderful for your situation. What sounds like is what's going on with you. The woman that she referred to me was Maria Luciano. And my experience, my first Pilates experience with her was life-changing because I had been to physical therapists, medical doctors, and I had about 3 MRIs done of my whole torso. And there was some twists that showed up in the MRI, a twist of C2, C3, but there was no disease showing.
There's no pathology at all.
No pathology. So no one really knows how to deal with mental, emotional stuff, even to this day. So I was going for help and no one knew how to help me. And when I met Maria Luciano, who is still my very good friend, this story is so emotional for me. She looked at me and she said, what happened? And right there, I felt seen for the first time, noticed, and I pretty much shrugged my shoulders because I didn't really know what to tell her what happened. What am I going to tell her? I couldn't explain all the different pains I'd been through. I said, I don't really know why. But she said in the first Pilates lesson, things I will never forget. Don't let me intimidate you. Don't let me push you to a point you're not comfortable. I want to see you stand. I want to see your alignment standing. And I want to breathe. My whole rib cage was dilapidated and my hips were twisted. And she said, all we're going to do today, if I can get that little left rib cage to lift up a little with breath, we will have had success today. And so we worked on she taught me to breathe into the parts that were so trapped. Driving home after my first lesson with her, I was euphoric.
Yeah, you got oxygen in your body for the first time since you were 2.5.
Probably. Thank you. Yes.
Because your dance teachers, as good as they might have been, probably didn't understand the role of the diaphragm and how to inflate and deflate the lungs in a healthy manner. So I think most of us who had a dance career didn't really breathe. We didn't know that breath is the reason why we want to move.
Exactly. Yes.
And you stayed with her for how long?
She stayed my mentor for many years. And then she ended up moving to Kauai. We're still really good friends. She's not teaching Pilates anymore, but she was one of the ones who had encouraged me, you should study this. You should go through a certification program. You should learn this. I think you're talented. And I think all of the pain you've been through and the twists that you've had in your torso, that it would make you a really, really good Pilates teacher. She really gave me a lot of encouragement.
A compassionate teacher for sure.
Mm-hmm. And she had so much knowledge about the body. And
where did she learn her knowledge?
I am embarrassed to say I don't know where she went, who she studied with. I just know that she was affiliated with Siri Dharma, and I trusted. At that time, when I was entering the Pilates world, I didn't know about certification programs or who studied with who. I didn't really know that whole routine yet. I was a little innocent thing going in, just saying, help, I'm really hurt. Someone help me.
Yeah.
But I don't know who Maria studied with or where she studied, but she was brilliant. She had an eagle eye, and she knew how to pull out something deep in me.
I love that. Those are the teachers we want to hold on to.
Exactly.
Because from the very first time she saw you, she saw you.
She saw me. Exactly.
And I can imagine if that was the first experience of your feeling seen, I can only imagine all your innards sort of taking a big exhale and melting, and the lens in which you were looking through probably changed in that very first lesson.
They changed. And I felt a lot of energy leaving, and a lot of release, and a lot of joy about the journey of exploring, helping myself along with the pattern and the twist. I was just filled with enthusiasm. I didn't know where I was going to direct it or what I was going to do with it. I was just driving home feeling just excited. So excited.
So it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to go back to ballet class now, or, oh, I have to share this with others. You were just in the moment feeling some new stuff in your body.
I was feeling some new stuff. And at that point, I wasn't interested in sharing it with anyone because you know what?
So precious.
My journey was it's been a good full journey. So.
And we're talking 1990.
This was in the 90s. This was in the 90s, maybe the mid 90s, like around 94, 93, 94. Sometime in there, because I moved to LA in 91, and I think it was 93, 94. It was when Siri had a beautiful home in Beverly Hills, and she was still in the home, and that's where she had her studio. And it was just a lovely experience going there. It was beautiful and lots of fun energy around. It was very lovely.
At some point, did you realize that your ballet training helped your progress in the Contrology system, or were you finding that it was hindering you?
I think it helped, but that is such an interesting question. I think it helped, but I do know that my mentors currently that I train with, and it's kind of, when they say this, I love it. They really want me to lose the ballet and just get a little more badass energy in me.
Thank you. Come on.
So it's
I think I use the word bitch, don't
I
I?
used the word bitch on me once. But one of my mentors, Jay Grimes, he said, ballet isn't necessarily going to help you with Pilates, but Pilates will help the ballerina quite a bit. But for me, going into Pilates, I loved that I had all that ballet history because it reminded me of my ballet days and all the beautiful creatures around me. Now I get to have beautiful adult creatures doing the Pilates around me and looking at their bodies and being with wonderful teachers. So I feel grateful that I have that memory to sort of compare it to, because it's a fun memory, the dancers and my friends when I was younger, and then feeling like, oh, I've got all these Pilates friends now, and we're all trying to create something powerful in our body, and it's a wonderful feeling.
A lifelong experience of feeling that power.
Exactly.
Well, segueing from your dance experience into the Pilates experience, in the opening, I talked about perfection and performance. And there is definitely these two behaviors that are peppered throughout the Pilates community. What are your thoughts about that?
It is peppered throughout the Pilates community, and I have a feeling about that's a little mixed, because when you're trying to set someone up for being perfect, that is a lot to ask of someone, because it's unattainable. Performance energy is wonderful, to have a bravado excitement about what you're doing, but more than performance and perfection, I think all teachers and the student alike needs to take responsibility. We need to be with the body that is for that day. And if I'm showing up with you and I'm feeling really like bitchy and badass, and you're like, Joan, we are going to go for this advanced reformer, and I want to perform it in front of you, do it with my all. Yay for me. What could be more beautiful? It could be a beautiful experience. But where I think it can be dangerous is if in that perfection and performance expectation, as a teacher, the teacher puts pressure because they know the student's good, and the student feels pressure. And then there can be anxiety and anxious, maybe even a little risky training, because I want to prove, I'll just use me as an example. Let's just say I show up to train with you and I want to prove to you how good I am because I'm feeling, I want to show off. Maybe my body isn't up for it. I'm trying to perform. I'm trying to be perfect in front of you because I want to be told, good, Joan, beautiful Joan. That's it, Joan. I'm just creating an example. And I know I'm pretending. There's a lot of pretending in that performance and perfectionism where I know I am not really at my deepest. And you'll catch me on it when we work together. You'll say, hey, Johnny, come back. Let's do that again. So I think that if it's used appropriately and not in a dangerous way, performing in Pilates can be wonderful. But I just think that it's important that the student is careful and safe, and the teacher is careful and safe, and no one feels discouraged or defeated, right?
What would you say to those students who want to do good for not necessarily show off for their teacher, but they do want the praise? What do you say to those kind of students who might carry around a lot of anxiety, so that anxiety is mixed in with wanting to do a good job for themselves and also for their teacher? What do you do with all that anxiety?
I know what to do with it because I'm that person, Darian, truly. I know I've been that person. I'm working on that right now with myself. I'm working on that as a human being, but I understand what that feels like. So I would say to the students, I want you to do a workout today. I want this to feel really good. I want you to feel like you're working out hard. I want you to feel free. I want you to have joy. And let's just go for this with as much truth.
So you set it up that way.
Set it up that way.
And that takes the pressure off the student to feel the anxiety?
Takes the pressure off a student. And I'll say to my students, you don't need to prove anything to me. You don't need to prove anything to yourself. Let's just feel your body. I want to try to teach you a skill, the skill of knowing how to connect to the right muscles to do a movement with ease, grace, length. I want to teach you how to find that in your body. Let's explore this together. And then it takes the pressure off. And then the student feels excited and happy. And I'm not the right teacher for everyone. And I'll tell my students that if they don't, not every teacher is right for every student, but I try to instill in my students that I want them to be safe. If something doesn't feel right, I want them to tell me.
Communication.
Right. And then I want to give them a good workout and let them have fun and let them move, feel their body.
Do you put an emphasis on the breath?
Yes.
How?
I always want them to inhale fully and exhale fully through the nose. Sometimes I know that we're taught classically to inhale on exertion sometimes, like chest expansion, inhale, press the bar down. I explore that. I sometimes have them exhaling on exertion. And I just explore the breath. I keep quoting Jay, but one thing, she's very wise. One thing he said to me, and I loved it, he said, get out of there, get out of your head with the breathing. Inhale, exhale. Just make sure they're breathing fully and naturally without fear, fully and naturally through the exercise. And I love that because there's a lot of inhale, exhale, inhale. There's a lot of, and it can be too much.
Right. So it's true because if you're thinking opposed to feeling, you're in your head and you're not having the experience of the actual movement.
Right, right.
Hey, everyone. Want to level up your teaser? When I'm not interviewing or editing, I'm helping students just like you get to the next level. If you'd like to understand the Contrology technique, come learn from me, whether online or in person. Just know I'm here and happy to help. Now, back to the interview. Do you have any advice for dancers, not necessarily ballet dancers, but any dancer that has had a dance profession who are entering the Pilates field? One thing that I remember in our pre-interview, and I hope that you could say more about this, is that you talked about how you want someone to make friends with the springs. The springs become your friend. Can you say more about that?
Those springs can be a beast.
100%, yes.
They can be a beast. And then you have a ballerina coming in who is so connected to their body and has such a strength and artistry. And then you have a teacher that's sometimes excited to have a ballerina. And it could be a cocktail for disaster if everyone present isn't aware of what's going on. I would say to ballerinas, be very mindful of the springs. Find a good teacher you feel comfortable with. And I'm going to bring up something that also reminded me of the first moment I met you. I would say to the ballerina, stay in your truth. You know what feels right. If you're about to do something where you're muscling something out and you're feeling a terrible strain, don't keep going and hope for the best. Because I know what it's like to try to do something and you just, I'm just going to do it at all costs.
Push through
And then muscle it out. I remember when I first met you, this has to do with the ballet thing too. I remember you were training at Ocean Pilates and you were doing the Cadillac. And I was maybe still in my certification program at the time, but I came over to Ocean Pilates and you were performing quite perfectly Cadillac exercises on the doing different things on the Cadillac. I saw the gymnast, I saw the artist, and I was so moved when I saw you, Darian.
Oh, wow.
And I remember coming up. It's a moment I'll never forget. I remember feeling very shy about coming up to you because I didn't know if you'd be like, "Who are you? Leave me alone. I don't know you. Who is this?"
Oh my God.
I thought, you know what? I'm going to go up and say hello and I remember I said, "Hi, my name is Joan, and I just want to tell you that you're so good. You're so powerful. How did you get to be like, I was feeling jealous. I'm going to come right out and say, I was jealous, appreciative, joy, jealous. It was appreciative, but I was like, dang, this woman, who is she? And you said very kindly, I'm Darian. It's nice to meet you. You were so sweet. And then you said, I always train in my truth.
I did? I said that?
You said that to me. I always train in my truth.
Oh.
And I thought that was so powerful and beautiful. So I would say to the ballerina, you know what it feels like to be in your truth. Stay in that truth at all costs. And if, there's exercises you don't feel are right, but you say, I'm not feeling this and Can you explain it a different way? Can you teach me something else to build another exercise to build up into this exercise?
So it's a balance. Thank you for saying all of that.
I had to share it. That was one thing I really felt I needed to share in this interview.
Oh, thank you, Joan. Thank you.
It was a very moving moment for me because you reminded me.
I was just on the caddy doing my thing, right?
Doing your thing, but you weren't just doing your thing. You were doing your thing, and it was quite beautiful what I was seeing. I was almost moved to tears. It was so powerful.
Wow. Well, what I was going to ask is those of us who danced in environments that maybe weren't psychologically the most healthy, so that we were taught to push through at all costs. I learned that first as a gymnast. You just push through it.
Right.
So we take all of that experience and our collective wisdom and move it into the acknowledgement in the Pilates community when someone like us comes to us as a Pilates student, and to help them, sort of give them permission. They don't have to push through. So it goes back to what you were saying about the springs being your friend, because yeah, the springs are a big beast. If you're working past what you're able to.
They are a beast. They are a beast. In fact, I'll never forget, this was many, many years ago. I don't know, maybe 15 years ago. Wendy Whalen, who is one of the greatest ballerinas of all time.
Was she with ABT?
New York City Ballet. And I remember saying to Wendy, "Oh, Wendy, I'm doing Pilates. It's so great. You know, in the off season, you should do Pilates. It'd be so good for you." And she actually got a really gnarly injury because the teacher, I think, was excited to have her in the lesson.
Oh, she went to a Pilates lesson.
I don't know who she trained with, but she went to someone in New York. It's all water under the bridge, and she healed. And not only did she heal and she did share it with me. She goes, "I just want you to know I went and did it." But she told me how she got injured, which is something I could share to possibly help other future battle.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
She was doing the leg springs, the heavy leg springs. And I think she was on the Cadillac. And I think she was going really big with the circles because she had the flexibility. And she pulled in her hip or in her groin. And that's how she got injured. I think that is what happened. But she did get injured. So it was something I said, "I'm so sorry." And she goes, "Oh, it's okay. It happens." But I would just tell any ballerina to go in and be very careful and be very cautious and listen to their body, not push. Feel the beauty of the bone load, their bones loaded and their length before they start fighting with those springs. And they use the springs to help. The springs are there to heal and help us, not to have us
fight,
right, or have an argument with.
Yeah. That's beautiful advice, Joan. Really helpful, I think.
Good, thank you.
During our pre-interview, also, we were talking about different segments. We have the perfectionism, we have the performance aspect, and then we have something that you refer to as it's us and them. And I thought maybe you could say a little bit more about that, because inside that conversation, the concept of a clique or an exclusive club came up.
I definitely think there's a feeling in the Pilates world of the us and the them, and there are definite cliques in the Pilates world. But I think it's the human condition, and I think there's cliques everywhere. I think there's cliques in the chiropractic field, in the yoga field. Anytime you have a group of people who have a lot of knowledge and wisdom, and there's the doing and the teaching component, there are going to be cliques. The us and the them, there's contemporary Pilates, classical, East Coast, West Coast, different training programs and certification programs to go through. And some are valued and some aren't valued. You only went through that program. That's what I mean by the us and the them. But as I'm maturing and as I'm continuing to work on my own and myself as a human being and my integrity, the us and the them and the cliques aren't nearly as intimidating as they used to be. I used to have so much fear and worry in the Pilates with, "Oh my gosh, I can't do that because they're so much better than me." And, "Oh, I feel so intimidated." And there was a lot of shyness because I was feeling maybe less than some of these brilliant people who I have such respect and love for. But now that I'm working on myself, I think, oh, wow, I can still be me and feel good about me, learn from these brilliant people. Some of the people might be, I'm classically trained in Pilates. However, I've had contemporary teachers before. And I love the exploration of the body, however that may show up. So as I'm continuing to evolve and grow, the us and the them doesn't have as much weight. The us and the them. I don't focus on it or the cliques because it's kind of negative. It separates people.
Yes.
Instead of focusing on that, I like to think, oh, wow, I am in a community, so much brilliance in this community. There's so many great teachers who know a lot, and they all have something different to share, maybe from a different angle, or let's learn as much as we can, leave our ego out the door, and just be humble and excited about what we're learning and sharing. That's sort of where I'm at now, because otherwise there's enough going on in the world that let's keep our Pilates world loving and kind.
Oh, I love that.
So much going on in the world.
Beautiful, Joan.
Oh.
Well, you sound like you have really matured. You're all grown up now.
Well, I've been working on myself. I've been through therapy most of my life, and to this day, I still have an integrity coach, and I do work with Barbara Stamus and breath.
Who is that?
Barbara Stamus is a colleague and friend of mine. She she taught me at Vintage, and she's still teaching Pilates, but we just do a lot of work together, restorative work, breath work. She's helped me a tremendous amount. And I have an integrity coach, Tanya Yvonne, that I work with. And I have all my wonderful Pilates mentors that I continue to learn from.
Do you feel like when you came into the Pilates community and your first lesson with Maria?
Maria, yes.
And you were so twisted, do you feel like a lot of the patterns that you came in with have been repatterned?
Yes, I do. There is an afterglow of the twist that if I'm anxious, whatever, let's just say I'm anxious in life or I have a stress, the first place it goes is that twist. But now I have a way of...
You have tools.
Tools. I'll be like, oh, I see you, little rib cage. I'm just going to bring some air into you and just be nice to you and not judge. Not judge. Judge the twist, judge the pain, judge why I got there. No judgment, just let it go.
That's a lot of beautiful advice for many of us who hold on to past whatever, that all of that whatever still resides in our body.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The judgment piece is what has been left behind as you have gained wisdom and maturity.
Exactly.
You have a studio in Los Angeles?
I do. I have a studio out of my home, and I have all of the equipment, and I'm always dabbling with maybe getting a different, like the new spine corrector that Contrology just made. And I'm dabbling with new equipment and new things. I have grots, and I have two reformers, a grots reformer and a Contrology reformer. But I have a full...
Which one is better on your body?
I like them both. I feel that the Contrology reformer supports me more in exercises like snake twist, and I like the Contrology reformer quite a bit. But I use both of them because they both give me different feedback, and all feedback is useful, right?
Yeah, for sure.
All feedback is useful.
So if somebody wanted to reach out to you and perhaps take a lesson, if they're passing through Los Angeles or they live in Los Angeles, what's your number, girl?
The best way to reach me is I'm on Instagram. Joni Blumstagram is my Instagram account. And the best way is to just DM me on Instagram. That's a great way. And that's probably the best way to reach me. I must say, I don't even have a website because I need to get a website.
Well, maybe not.
Maybe not. I have a full teaching practice. I have lots of students without the website.
Yeah.
It would be a nice way to put myself out there, be a little more available. But the best way I would say would be to DM me at Joni Blumstagram, or they can call my husband's chiropractic office, Charles Blum, and reach me there whenever they want.
Yes. And Charles is a brilliant chiropractor.
He is a brilliant chiropractor, and he has had a lot of impact on he's just had so much impact on my whole life and everything. So,
and how he sees the body.
How he sees the body. He's brilliant.
Do you guys get into different kinds of conversations and riffing on how the spine behaves based on a load or based on some behaviors that people come in to his practice or to your studio?
That's a great question. Some of my students see him for chiropractic, and he always has something creative to share with me. Let's just say a patient has one of my students is their left leg is slightly externally rotated and their right leg is a little internally rotated. He will pull me in the room and say, "Hey, Joan, come in here a second. What are you doing? Let's explore this together." He always has something brilliant to say to help me with my students.
That's wonderful.
And I listen, and we usually dialogue and talk, and it's a great way for me to continue to help my students, the ones that do see him, because I get the extra eye, his eye. So it's really fun.
Totally.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So in the best case scenario, someone could get an adjustment and then have a lesson, or vice versa. I wonder which one would be he would recommend, an adjustment first?
Usually I train the person first and then they see him, because after an adjustment, he usually likes to have his patients take a walk and just take a walk. And so things can settle. And I guess it would depend on the person, because every single situation is different. But most of my students, they'll train with me first. And if they're going to get a treatment from my husband, they'll see him after they see me.
Okay, sounds fantastic. I'd love to have both next time I come to LA.
That would be fun.
Totally. You can train me. You could give me a class, Joan.
That would be interesting. I would love it, actually. It would be so much fun to look at your body and
yes,
watch you move. And if I have something useful to say, I would say it. And if I don't have something useful, I'd be like, "Darian, you go, girl." Go, girl.
All right, Joan, thank you so much for your time and for your wisdom and sharing your love and passion of Pilates.
Thank you, Darian. It's been such an honor.
All Things Pilates is produced, written, edited, and hosted by me, Darian Gold. Mastered audio mix, Fabian Romero. Original music, a.k.a. Johnny. And we'd love for you to leave us a review on Apple Podcast or Spotify. That way you let all of us know what you like about All Things Pilates. Also, if you're interested in helping to support this podcast, become a subscriber. It helps to cover all the back-end costs that accrue when producing a show. To learn more about how you can be part of our growing community, check out our show notes. Nothing can dim the light which shines from within. Maya Angelou.